I feel I just need to be honest. I feel like a lot of the discourse surrounding overconsumption over the past year has lost a little bit of its meaning since we last talked about it. Last time I spoke about overconsumption was my Hello Kitty video in January 2025 about overconsumption of Hello Kitty and, its comeback and, people buying things that they don't necessarily need, even as somebody who loves Hello Kitty and is a collector of a lot of cute things, right? And I thought that was a good discussion. I thought we had a pretty good talk about it. And obviously overconsumption is an important point to talk about, right? I don't disagree, and I hope this video does not come off as me saying that these issues aren't something that we don't need to take seriously, because we do. And I do think there's a time and a place to talk about it. And I think we can have meaningful discussions about overconsumption. But over the past year, I should say few years, but I'm going to say over the past year, I've noticed a few changes when it comes to talking about this subject, and it doesn't feel like the discourse is well-meaning anymore. It's starting to feel like a little bit of a, how shall I say, egotistical. It's starting to feel like a lot of people use these discussions about overconsumption and these commentary videos about overconsumption to fuel some type of ego and to think that they are better than the average person. I see it in comment sections, and sometimes, whether we like to believe it or not, as creators, we can sometimes tend to put ourselves on like a little bit of a pedestal, or like bolster our image and whatnot else about talking about other people's issues and the wrongdoings of others. Rather than using these videos to talk about how we can better our behavior, our spending habits, and try not to overconsume more things, and what is this void that we're trying to fill with all these goods and services, and can we find it somewhere else, and talking about how we feel bad about ourselves because we don't have the world at our fingertips, material wise anyway, and how we feel bad looking on social media, seeing everybody with money and physical objects, and thinking that because we don't have these things, we are terrible people. Rather than make the discussion be about change and having some type of meaning besides material goods, now we are using the idea of being somebody who consumes less as this moral identity, right? As this measure of whether or not we are better than the next person over. Okay, and this is a more nuanced discussion. I'm not trying to say that certain topics don't require a call out or to be taken more seriously. Okay, that's not what I'm trying to say. You should know, if you've watched this channel for a little bit, we talk about those kinds of subjects on here, right? So this is just about overconsumption, and just know this is a more nuanced topic, but I want to focus more so on that today. Hi, my name is Keldawat, and I have a question for you. Do you actually care about overconsumption? Or are all these videos just entertainment to you so you can feel better about yourself? Hey, what's up? How you doing? Welcome back to the series where I talk about whatever's on my mind today. Because I have a big mouth, I like to yap about things with no particular end goal other than to start discussion. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about overconsumption and how I feel like over the past year, this discussion has lost its meaning. Before I start today's discussion, I just want to say 2 quick disclaimers. This is my rant and this is my current opinion, okay? My opinions can change based on new information. That's totally cool. But this is my rant currently, and I'm going to talk my shit. If you disagree, that's completely fine. Just be respectful about it, okay? I'm fine with that. We can disagree in this world, but it's my rant, and I'm going to talk my shit, okay? And secondly, these are some of the creators that I have watched over time, okay? I do not hold any personal grudges to these people. Do not reach out to them in any capacity. This is not supposed to be a whatchamacallit, oh, you're doing so bad and stuff like that. This is just me stating my opinion on things that I've watched and patterns that I've seen. Okay, don't reach out to anybody. I don't condone harassment. We don't do that over here in Keldawat land. Okay, thank you. Now, it is of my belief that this whole conversation on overconsumption post-2020 came from a good place, okay? We were all locked up inside with nothing to do other than to look at our phones and at the current trends going on and order packages and things that we didn't need. So much so that we did so in excess, right? Everybody's so obsessed with, being a different version of themselves and trying to find themselves and thinking that they can do it through buying certain products. And we could see the positive sides of that and also the very negative consequences of it, right? And I believe it came from a good place of, one, trying to be more conscious of our environment, because hello, we only have one earth. If we get rid of it, there's nothing left for us, okay? Water, we need water, right? So I think it comes from a good place of wanting to protect the environment and build more sustainable lives, normalize the normal, right? The lives of middle class and people in lower classes lives, right? We want to normalize being how we were typically before 2020, which is not buying as much as we do in excess like we are currently and like we were, let's say, like 2021, 2022 and onward, right? So I believe it was trying to normalize a more sustainable lifestyle and trying to get people to not move with the trends and try to seek fulfillment in objects and whatnot else. And I believe that having this discussion was meaningful. I think a lot of people do care about these things, and me making this video is not to diminish those feelings, because I care about it as well. As much as I like collecting cute stuff, I also know this is plastic at the end of the day. None of this stuff defines who I, like, you know, the basis of my being and stuff like that. Like I can still be a whole person even without all these things. And I think sometimes we get so attached to certain objects that we think that we can't live without them, right? We can't live without these things because we built an identity around them. As much as I like these things in my room, don't get me wrong, I do. I would be very upset if something happened, but you know, I think it's important to also build your life around not being such a materialistic person. That's my personal belief, my okay. But I think it kind of started that discussion and talking about brands that take advantage of underpaid workers to mass produce all of these goods and services that could get thrown away also. You know, some of these things are not built to be sustainable. They're not built to last a long time, and then they end up in a landfill or a thrift store, right? We don't want that. So I can understand this discussion coming at the time that it did, and I think it's important, and I'm happy to have watched a lot of these YouTubers, you know, start that discussion and, you know, even bring the mental health aspect into it, talking about shopping addictions and things of that nature. I think it's good, and I think it comes from a good place. I don't think these people are bad people. I don't think these people intended for it to go, this discussion on overconsumption, to go the direction that it did. Okay, I want to make that very, very clear. But as of recently, I feel like this particular discussion has been hijacked by a couple of different factors. Okay, a while ago I made a video about financial YouTubers and how I felt like the advice that they were giving, while it might have started off as, you know, wanting people to build a better life and have money and not be in a financial rut and debt and having like to worry about all of these things, and talking about overconsumption, which these two topics do overlap, finances and overconsumption. In the midst of that, it turned into just content and pushing out the most trending topic, and also turned into kind of a bit of a, how shall you say, dick measuring competition. I feel like it's a way for people to not actually get meaningful advice anymore, but as a way to have people be entertained and feel like they are better than other people, rather than actually claiming that they're learning something from it, right? It's more of an entertainment gag than anything, to just point and laugh at the Disney adult spending all their life savings on a getaway vacation, right? It's more entertaining to point and laugh at that, but they'll cover it up with this idea that they're pointing out these people's financial ruts, and these videos actually help people, when in reality, all I think that it does is feed the ego. And I think that overconsumption is falling into the same pattern, and a lot of these YouTubers are falling into the same pattern. As we know, commentary is, you know, the commentary space is a little icky out here. Okay, I think commentary is a little bit icky, so I think it's falling into a little bit of that. It always has been this genre, but nowadays, and it's feeling like a lot of the lines are kind of blurred. It feels like commentary overlaps a lot of different subjects, and people talk about the most trending topic. People talk about the things that they feel like, if they don't hop on it right now, is the ad revenue gonna hit? It's starting to fall into that pipeline, right? And I feel like when you mix it with issues that are important, like overconsumption commentary and talking about overconsumption, I feel like what ends up happening is you take a subject that's really important, and then it dumbs it down into just this kind of like content mill and this content factory, talking about the next trending thing out there before somebody else gets it, and then having a bunch of people comment on it like, oh my gosh, the new Starbucks bear cup, like, oh, that's crazy, guys, we need to talk about it. Like, it suffers from the overconsumption problem. And one video that I thought got very mixed reviews and stuff like that, and I don't think people liked how she put it, because they think that she's a little bit egotistical and above it all, and video analysis person and whatnot else. Duthy, that one video that Duthy said about the commentary issue and how she feels like certain topics require a little bit more thought put into them to discuss it, because it overlaps with a lot of different social issues and the political climate and the economic state of the world right now, and like all of these issues, right? She was the one to point out that a lot of these issues overlap, and what happens with commentary is when you talk about certain subjects and only talk about it to a certain extent, it leaves this room open for, it leaves kind of like an emptiness, right? Like, there should be more to discuss about this subject, but you're only diving deep so far for people to understand, because people can understand like, oh my gosh, guys, and isn't this AI video so bad to look at? Wow, and it's wasting a lot of water. Wow, even though I'm watching it myself right now 1,000 times over, and I'm laughing at it in an ironic way, right? How we can dive only so far into that subject, and then it has like, it's kind of like lost all its meaning, and like, it's discussion around it, right? And I think sometimes commentary, I think sometimes overconsumption has fallen into that same trap as financial YouTubers, where they make, they take like a couple of TikToks off the internet, and they're like, hey guys, look at dumb Disney adult, look at this girl who's in like $10,000 of credit card debt, isn't she so dumb, and stuff like that. And it turns the discussion into something that's not meaningful anymore, but entertainment. It takes these social issues and turns them into entertainment, and it also dumbs them down to the extent that people are willing to like focus on, right? Again, haha, funny, slip in a little bit of social issue, and then that's it. No after steps, no like, no deeper meaning to the content, no nothing. And I'm not saying that you have to like not enjoy slop content and whatnot else. I think that's what a lot of people were kind of taking our video as, like, oh, you're saying that there's we can't have like our slop, and we can't like, just laugh, and I the world's too dark and gloomy right now, I need my brain rot, I need it. I think a lot of you guys were a little bit mad that she kind of said the truth, and she said it bluntly. I really do think that's what it was, but that's just me though. That's just my little brain. I think that you were a little bit offended and a little bit called out. I felt called out. Heck, I like Mark, what's his face. I do like his videos, but I do gotta say, he's right. I think she brought like a very worthy discussion into it, and I like how all these topics like overlap. I feel like my brain's going like miles an hour and stuff like that. Sorry if I'm losing everybody, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. I think that overconsumption YouTubers and financial YouTubers fall into the commentary problem that she was referring to. I think sometimes issues like overconsumption fall into this trap where people are more obsessed with the identity of looking like they're sustainable and under consuming and whatnot else. They're more obsessed with being perceived that way by doing X, Y, and Z thing right, than actually caring about the issue itself, or what it means to overconsume, and what it means to create a better environment and not be so material driven, and create excess waste. I think a lot of people are obsessed with the identity of looking like, you know, they're doing the good work and whatnot else, and looking like they're doing the work by watching some of these videos about overconsumption to get their quick talking points and get as much knowledge as they feel like, you know, is comfortable for them before they kind of tune out and they're like, funny commentary. I don't think people view it as something you need to actively work on or learn more about, or understand how certain behaviors lead into other behaviors and is a product of, you know, a larger, bigger issue, right? Like, the girl taking out $10,000 in credit card didn't just decide to do that on a whim. Or maybe she did. Some cases they do. But most likely they probably didn't do that. There's something that led up to that felt like they needed to. They felt a void in their heart, not being able to keep up with these trends that they see on social media. And these trends on social media are perpetuated by a lot of these algorithms that these big Silicon Valley companies push to us on purpose and whatnot. You see how the issues keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and play off of each other. And I feel like what happens with overconsumption videos, it only brushes like the surface, or we only paint a certain narrative and relinquish like all of these other factors that could possibly be contributing to it, and then we all pile it onto just one TikTok of one girl saying that, you know, hey guys, this is my toiletry collection that's like very big and whatnot else, or hey guys, this is my attempt at, you know, like, you know, normal consumption, and then maybe somebody has 3 of the same blushes because they have a certain aesthetic. And then here's this commentator saying, I don't really think that's under consumption, actually. You know, I think I don't think that's the practice of under consumption, actually. You know, painting the wide brush, painting this wide generalization based off one particular TikTok, or, you know, maybe a few, or, you know, casting this wide net. Y'all get what I'm trying to say? Like, it's not, I don't think sometimes it's thinking deep enough. And then I feel like the result of like doing this kind of like widespread net, or this brush based off of like a few TikToks, again, the commentary issue in some regards, or talking about some of these trends and how people are falling for it and whatnot else, and how it's damaging, you know, the world. I feel like then people start getting into this mindset of surveillance and kind of like a big brother's watching mentality. Like, it's a little bit odd. I feel like here's an example of like a video that I found, a lot of comments of people just being like talking to this YouTuber, and is like, hey, I brought like 2 webkins and like I have like 5 other webkins. Am I over consuming? Hey, I, you know, like I really do like Pusheen, and I bought like 1 plushie today, but and like I kind of plan to buy one in the next 3 months. Is that overconsumption? Am I doing too much? Am I destroying the plant? It creates this surveillance system where you're more concerned about looking like you have you know, learned something from this overconsumption video. You know, it's like the obsession with looking like you're doing better, and like am I doing this right? Am I doing it right? Am I under consuming right? Am I, like, you know, am I over consuming? And it does more of a disservice to the movement. Sometimes people want to create a movement, so I'll use it loosely. It does more damage to the movement than people are actually getting from it. I think sometimes people trick themselves that they're getting something out of watching these videos, when sometimes it's just a content no. Okay, sometimes you just want to sit down and point at the blonde white girl who got the barista cup. You know, sometimes I really do think that's what it is, and it's worrisome. And really, you're just making yourself more paranoid for the sake of looking good in this movement or in this discussion, right? And then you convince yourself that these commentary videos are helping you actually get over some things, and then you get the comment sections I just showed you, right? Like, you're in a complete state of like, ooh, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Did I do it right? Did I do it right? You know? Or for some people, they just want an excuse to look better than other people, but sprinkle a little woke in it so they can feel even more better about themselves, right? Sometimes you just want to laugh at a girl with a gambling addiction who bought a bunch of Labubus, tore it open, and you just want to make fun of her. Sometimes you try to make it seem like it's deeper than it actually is, which is you just wanting an excuse to feel better about yourself. But because you sprinkled in a little bit of woke and said, oh, but actually I'm calling out the overconsumption issue, guys. I'm actually calling that out. You think that you think that you're doing this whole discussion justice about overconsumption. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, for some people it's the performance, but they'll tell themselves that these videos are like helping them, and like, I'm just being more vigilant, when really they're more paranoid. Or like, this just makes me get my finances in order. This just makes me get my collecting under control, when really you just want to look better. How is that helping anybody? And it doesn't help the fact that a lot of these commentators pick people kind of like out of obscurity. Sometimes they're not even calling out like actual problematic influencers who are trying to get you and to buy and sell a lot of this stuff that is mass produced and is being made with exploitative labor, right? Like most of the times they're not even calling out that. It's just regular everyday people, and then they cast the wide net. You get what I'm trying to say? They cast the wide net of like, actually I think like if you just spent your paycheck a little bit better, like if I had your paycheck, I feel like I could stretch it so much farther, you guys. Like, I don't understand like why you're buying so much stuff, or there's so many options at the thrift store and whatnot else. Like, why are you doing this? Why, like, young white girl, why are you buying Aritzia? I'm better than you secretly. Like, like they try to fit that in, but the wokeness, like, the sprinkle in the wokeness to hide the real initiative of this whole thing. Which is sometimes maybe you just wanted to get a check out of that commentary video. Maybe sometimes you just wanted to make fun of a whatchamacallit trend. Did you actually care about the overconsumption of it? Or did you just want to make fun of a girl's hobby? Some girls' hobbies, anyway. Like, so at some point, I feel like it's not even calling out the actual influencer. Sometimes it's just regular, everyday people. Like, there was one person that I've seen on TikTok who has, like, massive Pusheen collection. And from this one YouTuber that I watched a little bit back in the day, they made a video about them. And it was, like, in regards to collecting and overconsumption, which, I do agree that those topics overlap, don't get me wrong, right? But I feel like to paint this person's collection, this singular person's collection, as being somewhat of a problem, but with that person specifically, I feel like it's very clear that they did not get their collection overnight. I believe that this person has been posting literally since like 2020 about their massive Pusheen collection. It's very clear that they curated over time, and that their interest specifically is in Pusheen, and that they would not be throwing a lot of these things away. And I feel like more energy could be spent not looking at, some collectors who are like individuals. I feel like the point out of individual collectors such as this, when it's very clear that they did not get this stuff overnight and it is a specific interest of theirs, I feel like it does a little bit more of a disservice using them as the example of like how somebody could get trapped and influenced into collecting a bunch of things. And you could maybe talk about, for example, the amount of like cozy gaming setup videos that have been out on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts and everything. And when I say cozy gaming setup, I don't mean the people that, maybe like show it off like in a couple videos and then like talk about like other things, or like, like talk about their actual collection and actually have interest in it, right? I'm talking about those random pages that just kind of pop up to promote, TikTok shop junk. And like, a new gaming chair, or like a new like 500 keyboards to you and whatnot else. And most of the time it's sponsored content. Sometimes they don't even tell you it's sponsored content, or they got it gifted and whatnot else. They just kind of say it's theirs and kind of skirt around the bushes. Things that are a little bit more predatory, and I feel like anyway, promote more so that need to look a certain way aesthetically, and have that cinnamon roll mini fridge that holds all like your makeup, and plating all of these gummies that I'm pretty sure somebody is not going to eat in one sitting, all of this sweet stuff, and then blue milk to match my whole cinnamon roll aesthetic. Or talk about the Pokemon hoarders who believe that hoarding a whole bunch of ascended heroes and investing in Pokemon cards is somehow gonna get them a house one day. Or how about, Lego collectors and the people spending a whole bunch of money on sets that they know they cannot afford? What about that? But those aren't girl hobbies, right? Since those are the easiest ones to pick on. I'm just saying. And don't get me wrong, I understand women demographic are typically the ones to get peddled stuff more, but I do think there is a little bit of that double standard, and that not that feeling that much need to give vitriol to guys' hobbies versus women's hobbies. I feel like that more so promotes that idea than saying how big her Pusheen army is. Again, I don't say this to say that you are not able to criticize, the fact that there is overlap between overconsumption and collecting, because there is. To collect is to buy more than you actually need. But I actually think a lot of collecting spaces are starting to have that conversation, and if not, they're actually having it better than the commentary YouTubers who are talking about overconsumption in most cases. And they're doing it in a way that is healthy and keeping themselves in check and recognizing that they have a problem. A lot of doll collectors I've been seeing lately have been calling themselves out on these kinds of things. And it's not, they know that it's not this conundrum of a moral failing, if you get what I'm trying to say, right? They know that there's an issue there. They discuss it with people in their own communities too. And I don't think a lot of these, overconsumption YouTubers kind of understand that a lot of these people's collections that they are looking at is the far end extreme. The far end extreme. And I would say that influencer marketing and whatnot else is a little bit more predatory than the few people on TikTok that you saw that had a Randy collection from South Park. Right? That there's only so many people who are interested from Randy and South Park and will buy all those things, right? Even the Pusheen collector in this instance, these are people who are very on the far end of the extreme. And I don't think these are the main people that your every average day person is getting influenced by, because some people just show off their collections and like their collections and like talking about their collections, right? And again, not saying you can't critique that and the amount that other people buy. Again, the communities themselves check it, right? But what I am trying to say is a lot of these things that you were saying could be contributing to it, I don't think is the main factor, right? I don't think that Pusheen collector is the main contributor to somebody else's FOMO and feeling like they are missing out. And when you paint that wild generalization, you're basing it off of extremes and making it seem as though this is, the catalyst for all of these events, right? All these individual collectors and these individual people that you might be calling out. Sometimes they're just kind of the subject of the problem itself. Sometimes they're not the cause, they're just the effect of it, right? Again, I don't have a problem with talking about overconsumption and collecting and whatnot else. I talked about it for God's sake. I understand what I'm trying to say, but I don't think casting this wide net and making these generalizations and these taking these very extreme cases and making it seem like it's the majority is helping too much. And I think it's diverting from the bigger issue at play, or ignoring certain other factors, if you get what I mean. Like that lady I said before who said, oh, I feel like I could do better with your paycheck and whatnot else. If you just spent it better. Lady, we are in a very much economic crisis right now. There's people struggling out there for buying certain groceries and whatnot else. we're all struggling out here. No, you cannot do better with somebody else's paycheck. You know why? Because you're not them. And by taking this TikTok and making these widespread generalizations about these people and stuff like that, it presents this narrative that, you know, we are like, these individual people are the problem. These far ends of the extreme people are the problem. When really it's not. It's a little bit bigger than that. Sometimes it's a little bit deeper than that. And that's what I'm trying to say with these overconsumption YouTubers as well. I think we are casting a lot of wide nets. A lot. The other thing that I've noticed about overconsumption too is, does anybody see a running pattern with a lot of the topics that are talked about in overconsumption? Does it seem like a lot of the products are aimed towards a certain type of person, a certain type of lifestyle, if you will? Does it seem like it's the conversation of overconsumption and what all these YouTubers or most of these YouTubers have in common? Does it seem like there's just one common theme? My last point in this video, one of the patterns that I've started to notice is this space when talking about, you know, overconsumption and certain goods that are being overconsumed and whatnot else. Not only is the conversation dominated by people, okay, and there's not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But it's mainly dominated here. It's also dominated by all these products that are supposed to be aimed towards a certain group of people, typically a girl, okay? And it's not to say that people cannot enjoy these things, okay, that are from a different race. I'm not the person to argue with about this type of shit, okay? I'm not. That's not the reason I'm calling this out. But doesn't it seem like this pattern and this conversation and all these material goods that we're talking about paint a certain picture and demographic of a person that we're focusing on mainly? Starbucks, Road, what's another one? Sol de Janeiro. All of these other products are kind of giving rich valley white girl, suburban white girl. That's the main focus of all these goods that are being overconsumed and you know, like being painted towards like the main issue, right? And it just like bothers me that this conversation is very white centered. I think it's a little bit white centered. Again, not to say that other people can't enjoy these things, but I do think this conversation is very white dominated and white centered. And sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, what are my people over consuming then? Right? What are my people over consuming? What are like other people, like what are other minorities over consuming too? Why aren't we talking about different products? Why do we keep talking about Starbucks? Stop giving Starbucks attention. We're in a boycott right now. Like, what are we doing? Like, why is that always it? It's the most trending topic, right? And, you know, obviously the most trending topic and the things that are going to trend the most are probably the most white-centered too. You know, like, obviously it all ties together. I know it. We all know it, right? But yeah, I think isn't it interesting that everybody, it's painting, it's a certain image, you know, suburban white girl. So it's living in suburbia, being of a certain prestige, if you will, the Bath and Body Works, the like everything, right? Going to doing my Target run and getting my Starbies and, you know, getting my JB t-shirt and Hailey Bieber t-shirt, and like, you can't tell me that this isn't, you know, just a tad white centered. So I guess my critique of that is just, I don't got the answers to everything, but talk about something different, you know? Why is it so white in here? God, why is it so white in here? Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I know I'm gonna get somebody who's upset with me saying the truth, because it is the truth. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this subject. Did you like this video? Did you not? Okay, just be nice about it. I block people. Okay. This was a topic that has really been on my mind, and I'm going to obviously get back to other things that I'm supposed to put out. I know I have a couple of different things I'm supposed to, but this was really on my mind and really on my heart to talk about. Again, no hate to any of these people. I have watched these people before. Any of the commenters that I have listed here, don't harass anybody, okay? We don't do that over here. What's wrong with you? Don't do none of that, all right? Let me know your thoughts. With that being said, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I can't speak today. I've been yapping for, I think I've been yapping since like 6 o'clock, and it's like 8:51 now. Oof. But like, let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kalawat. Tell somebody you love them today, because tomorrow is not promised to us. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.